4 years old, Manson reportedly gets more mail than any prisoner in the United States. But most of the young people who are captivated by Manson may not appreciate the horror he brought to Southern California during an exceptionally hot August 9th in 1969.
The murders were probably the most bizarre in the recorded annals of American crime.
First, the bodies of actress Sharon Tate and 4 others were found slaughtered, their blood used to write messages on the wall. Tate was pregnant. The following night, a wealthy couple was found stabbed to death in their home. Tate's marriage to Roman Polanski, who had just directed the thriller Rosemary's Baby, a film about the devil, fueled speculation that the slayings were tied to the occult. While Manson himself didn't kill anyone, his followers, representing the dark side of the 60s counterculture, acting on his orders, most certainly did.
I do think he's evil. Some people are just very bad human beings. And he and the others have something in the deepest recesses of their soul that fortunately you and I don't have.
So take a good look. And if by chance you one day find your child staring at this face on your home computer, you may want to ask, why? Charles Feldman, CNN, Los Angeles.
Joining our conversation, Tony Costa. He's a graduate from the University of Toronto in Religious Studies and is on the board of directors for Apologia, a Christian organization that researches new religious movements. Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Do you know, even though the Charles Mansons of this world are extremely rare, just how frightened do we need to be at the rise in new religious movements and, you know, thinking that they may have the potential to become dangerous?
I think we should be very alarmed. We just saw the footage on Waco, Texas. We saw what happened with the Solar Cult Temple, etc. And the main thrust here is control. And that's what makes these groups so dangerous, is they control. Control to the point of destroying people's lives. And so the warning signals have been going on. Jonestown is a warning signal. Waco is a warning signal. And the point that has to be made here is that cults that manipulate and control people kill people. And we're dealing with a very serious issue. I take the view that Dr. Dawson took and the previous guest. My view, though, my point is to emphasize the danger of such groups. And that's something I think that we should always be cautious about, is people die in these groups.
Even though it is exceedingly rare, just how dangerous are these doomsday apocalyptic cults?
Very, very dangerous, and they're very influential. We take the idea sometimes that they only attract the lower class, the average work person. No, they don't. They attract lawyers, they attract white-collar workers, doctors, and they are extremely dangerous. And this is the whole point, again. The number one word here is control. The whole point is to control you, control what you think, what you believe, and they have this claim to exclusivity, not just exclusivity, but to this one and unique contact with the divine. And they have a very exclusive view as well. And if you leave them, then you are led to believe that you just abandoned God and you've just delivered yourself to Satan.
How important is that element of danger? Because if I were to examine my own spiritual beliefs, I'd be willing to die. I'd be willing to lay down my own life for my spiritual beliefs. Right. But I certainly don't believe that I belong to a cult. So if that's the standard that you use, like, how do you define what a cult is and what is a legitimate spiritual belief?
I think that we have to emphasize that the idea of martyrdom, is not suicide. The early Christians, of course, we know from history, willingly died for their belief in Jesus of Nazareth. But they were not controlled to that end. They died willingly. Even today, there are still martyrs around the world, Christian martyrs in communist countries, who die willingly for their faith. We die only for that which we believe to be true, which we hold ideally to be true, and so it's worth dying for. But when you are part of an organization that basically asks you to surrender your will, surrender everything, and to die at their command, as we have seen with certain cults, certain groups, where people in Africa, for example, the case where you just mentioned that restoration group of the Ten Commandments of God, these were people, from the evidence now, it's been shown that they've been killed. They were shot in the head, and so there is the major difference. Sure, you will die for what you believe. Political people, Dr. Martin Luther King died for what he believed, but they were not coerced into that situation.
Do you have to look at the difference, too, between the doctrine, what the group is preaching, and what their actions are? Because you mentioned the group for the restoration of the Ten Commandments. Yes. Well, you know, a commandment is thou shalt not kill.
Correct.
And yet we saw what happened. More than 1,000 people
Definitely.
murdered.
I believe that if you are what you eat, you are what you believe. I think your beliefs and your worldview does have a bearing on your life. If you believe that, for example, if you believe that certain people of different color are inferior, you're going to react differently to those people. You're going to try to hurt those type of people, try to exclude those type of people. So I truly do believe that your belief system does play a major role here. If you believe that David Koresh is Jesus Christ incarnate, then and you pay your loyalty to him, then obviously that belief is going to lead you to believe every word he says, confine yourself in a convent or in a certain area, and die if need be.
Tony, how do seemingly relatively intelligent people get sucked into these dangerous movements? Take the Heaven's Gate cult. 39 people committed suicide, and their beliefs seem so strange to us. They believe that, you know, in killing themselves, that they were going to transcend to a new life, that they were going to be taken aboard a UFO.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems very bizarre and strange, but yet obviously they believed it enough to die for that.
Definitely. I think that the previous speaker that was here put it succinctly, that we do live in a post-secular society, and I think that the secular world is spiritually bankrupt. That it has shown that humanism is not the answer to man's thirst, but spirituality is. And I believe that the average doctor, the average intelligent individual, is also a spiritual person, and that they're looking for spiritual truth. And sometimes these leaders, and this is what makes them so dangerous, these charismatic leaders are very convincing, very influential. And the warning in the Bible, of course, if I can bring this into a Christian context, Jesus said, beware, because these false prophets and these false teachers are able to deceive even the very elect. So that's why in the New Testament there's a high calling to be always aware of false teachers and false prophets and those who will bring a different doctrine. So absolutely, they are very influential. And we know that even today, high celebrity people are involved in various groups.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Tony, our phone's quite busy this afternoon. Let's go to Morris on line 8. Go ahead, Morris. You're on the air.
Hello there, Rhonda.
Hi, Morris. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a retired minister of 40 years, and for the last 30 years I have been conducting seminars all over Canada in all the churches on the Watchtower Society of Jehovah's Witnesses. Right. Now, I would like to ask your guest there, does he consider this group as a cult?
Well, Morris, that's an excellent question, because you know, most people have very little contact with, you know, the Heaven's Gate cult or Charles Manson or you know, the cult in Uganda, the restoration of the Ten Commandments. But most of us will have fairly regular contact with members of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Now,
they will come right up to your door.
Absolutely. You don't even have to go to them. They come to you. The point here is we have to define the word cult as well, and as you know, your two speakers also gave the definition. The word cult basically means, from the Latin cultus, means a group. Now, in a Christian definition, a cult is a group which surrounds itself around an individual or an organization and claims to be in harmony with the historic Christian faith. Jehovah's Witnesses make that claim that they are the restored truth, if you will, the restored congregation of Jesus Christ. However, their teachings are not in harmony with historic Christianity. Jehovah's Witnesses deny the Trinity, the divinity of Jesus. They deny the doctrine of salvation by grace alone. And they have all the marks. They have the exclusive claim. They alone have the truth. It's either their organization or it's Satan's organization. So in answer to your caller's question, absolutely. From a purely Christian theological point of view, the Jehovah's Witnesses do classify as a non-Christian cult.
Okay, we have to take a commercial break, but don't go away. We'll be back with more Rhonda London Live, and I'll try to take more of your phone calls when we come back. The number to call, 416-203-0302. Welcome back to Rhonda London Live. We're getting short on time, so let's go right to Carol on line 4. Go ahead, Carol. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for being so patient.
That's okay. I just have to turn on my television. The reason I'm calling is because I have some concerns about your caller's definition of a cult. He mentions that a cult is I guess an organization that basically, you know, dictates how a person should think and see God. When in fact it appears as if all Christian organized faiths and teachings dictate the exact same thinking. You know, there are certain things that a Christian has to do. In fact, as I was growing up, one of the things that turned me away from organized religion was the fire and brimstone type of teaching that the priests in my parish seem to all,
Right. Well, Carol, I'm going to stop you there because, Tony, I want you to respond to that, because there has been a lot of distorted teaching, even within the Christian church.
Absolutely. You see, this is not something that is just exclusive to these new religious movements. The idea of control, I mean, there's even churches that control. There's a book, an excellent book written called Churches That Abuse. And there are cases where, yes, the clergy does use, if I may call it, cult-like tendencies where they try to control the people and instill fear into them. The only difference, however, is that I find is that, for example, if you are a Roman Catholic, for example, and you stop going to Mass, usually you don't hear about priests going door to door and saying, why weren't you at Mass today? We'd like to know why you weren't there. I mean, but other groups are known to follow up on people and ask why.
Tony, we're out of time, but I want to thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
That is our show for today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back here again tomorrow. I hope you'll join me. In the meantime, have a great day.
You're watching CTS, family-friendly